Hey guys, this is Brian Swan with BareBones Entertainment. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Max Bemis. I play in various bands, including Say Anything.
And what were we doing in Dallas tonight?
Tonight we're playing kind of like a record release show for Perma, which is a project that I started with my wife, Sherry. A record came out today, so we're at Good Records right now, and it was awesome. I had a great time.
Yeah, I definitely thought the set went really well.
Thank you.
So you came off with it was pretty good too?
I had an amazing time. Yeah, definitely.
And you guys are going to be going on tour soon?
Yeah, we are. It's basically like a me solo, Sherry solo, Perma, Matt Pryor from Matt Pryor, and then the Get 'Em Kids from New Amsterdams, and Merriment, which is a band that's on my label that's comprised of my brother and sister-in-law. And they're freaking amazing. So it's going to be a really cool show.
So with the touring coming up and everything, how do you best manage your writing?
I don't do a lot of writing on tour. Maybe like a melody will pop into my head. When it comes to comic writing, it's easy to write on tour because, I don't know, it's a whole other beast. You can really sit in the back of the bus or wherever and pop out a script. Songwriting is a little bit different because you kind of get burnt out. Now we're back. Yeah, no, it's just that on tour, like, I tend to get, at least me, I tend to get a little burnt out on creating music because the live experience in and of itself is like a really emotional, demanding thing. So I find that I do most of my songwriting at home, but I can really write comics anywhere, at any time.
And I know you've said before that, like, you're not the typical stereotype, like, rock band that in your tour bus you're going to find a bunch of comic books and...
Yeah, it's very mellow. I mean, it wasn't always the case, but especially as we've all aged, we tend to just like to hang out with each other and listen to music and read and hang out with our loved ones. And it's a very, we still have the rare, freakish circus moment on there, but it's pretty rare.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And have you already started planning what comic books you're taking with you?
For that tour? Actually, no. That's funny. I haven't, but probably only because it's a couple months away.
Yeah.
I usually have a section in my library, in my comic library, where it's like stuff I haven't read yet that I want to read. So most of that stuff will probably be coming with me, and then I just kind of browse the library and look for stuff that's either coming out while I'm on tour or stuff I've just been meaning to read. So it's a fun experience, though, just to pick comics for tour. It's fun. Yeah.
And what are you reading right now?
What exactly right now? I'm actually in between comics, which is a rare thing for me. Meaning to say that I've finished a comic and now I kind of can read whatever I want, because usually I'm like knee deep in comics.
Yeah.
But I'm planning to read some stuff that's coming out this week. I know there's like a Wolverine and the X-Men trade coming out, and I haven't caught up with that series for a really long time. Mind the Gap had a third trade come out, which I'm meaning to read all three of them. I've read the first one already, but I want to read all three of those. Chew, I recently picked up like a giant hardcover version of Chew, and I'm planning on reading that. And then I have to catch up on like my Valiant stuff. So there's a lot on my plate, comic-wise. I actually am like overloaded with stuff I need to read, which it sucks, and it's good.
And you're an actual very avid Buffy fan as well?
Very, yes. Very. I'm actually haven't finished season 9, even though the last issue came out, because I'm a trade waiter. I wait for trade paperbacks. Unless it's something I like can't stand to wait for, in which case I buy it digitally.
Yeah.
But for Buffy, because like so many of the trades have come out, I figured I'd wait, just because it's probably only a couple of months until those last few trades come out again. But I'm really excited. I'm a big fan of the Buffy comics in particular. Like, it's one of the few properties I think that actually improved upon the source material.
Yeah.
When it, comes comes to that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I know I typically read for the trades also. I've always been kind of waiting, but always wanted to get like the Firefly trades. Like I've wanted to read those ones really bad, but never got to.
No, I have them and I haven't read. Actually, I haven't gotten into Firefly yet.
Yeah.
And Serenity. It's the one thing that I'm like, I know I'm going to be obsessed with it, so I'm kind of like, I need something to look forward to.
The show and the movie was amazing, so I've always wanted to read the pieces that fill it all up.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. And they have really good talent on those, and I know Joss Whedon wrote a good amount of it, so that's cool. Yeah.
Are there any comics coming out that you're really excited to read?
Yeah, again, for Valiant, I'm really excited. They've released a couple of deluxe hardcovers, and I have the first one, and their second one is coming out. I think it's Harbinger. They have a deluxe hardcover coming out that I'm really excited to read, and then I'm going to catch up with all the Valiant stuff that I haven't read yet. Next year, there's a, I've actually already read this, but there's like a Jason Aaron Punisher Max omnibus coming out. I'm a big fan of the Punisher Max world ever since Garth Ennis did his stuff there, so my plan is to read the entire thing from the beginning, from Garth's stuff all the way to Jason Aaron stuff, and I just like things in an oversized format.
Yeah.
So it'll be really, and with the big bulky hardcover, so that's one thing I'm excited about next year. Until then, there's countless books I'm waiting for. I mean, I'm just like, I'm the type of guy who goes on Amazon and will just like browse, you know, trying to search for stuff that's getting listed that's coming out next year, just so I know what's coming out. Like, I'm just obsessive. So.
And what were your thoughts on like DC doing the New 52, Marvel doing Marvel Now? What did you think about like that move in comics? Was that a smart move to do?
Yeah, of course. I think it was a smart move. I mean, I think they could have probably not done it, DC in particular, and things would have been fine. I was already a big DC fan and very much embroiled in the continuity. So I would have stuck with them. It's not like they were, I think a lot of the more loyal fans, it didn't make that much of a difference because we were just going to pick it up anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it reached, from what I can tell, it reached a bunch of new people, and that's always a great thing. Obviously, not all the books are perfect from either publisher, but I mean, I'm a big fan of a lot of the books from both of those relaunches. I especially think Marvel Now has done a really good job, and I love a lot of the New 52 books. So, I tend to be the kind of comics fan who doesn't nitpick at things that are typical comic fan gripes. Yeah. Oh, you killed this character, or oh, you rebooted this. It's like, this is comics. This is what they've been doing for like 100 years. You know, it's like, I'll be alive when comics have been around for 100 years and they'll still be killing off people and bringing them back and rebooting. And whatever, go with it. This is what, just go with it and enjoy the art.
You've had pretty much every, big heroes died countless times.
Yeah.
They brought Steve Rogers back so many times.
Yeah, completely. And I'm fine with it. I can't say I'm in line with every single time it's done. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, okay. But I'm not the type of person who's pissed with the general idea that comic companies are always going to be reaching for some kind of method of revitalizing what they have going. And I think that's a fair thing. It's a niche market and people do what they have to do. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's annoying and whatever.
Have you had your comic influence on Sherry? Yeah. She's totally read some stuff that I think she wouldn't have read had she not met me. But she was already, she was the only girl I've ever dated to have any knowledge of comics, and has great taste, and she's still more selective, obviously, than me. But no, she's awesome. And I hope that And I know you mentioned your love of Punisher and everything. Does she have a favorite that stands out for her too? She really liked Runaways, like Brian Vaughan's run on Runaways, and she likes a lot of the more sort of fantasy slash, not exclusively though. I mean, she read Y the Last Man, but Sandman, Neil Gaiman, that's her big thing. So she likes fables. She likes, because she grew up on fairy tales and Disney stuff. So any comic that kind of plays on that, she's automatically into. But she likes other stuff as well. Yeah. But that's her And I know you mentioned last time we interviewed you that you're going to be working with Marvel and everything. Are there any more details you can give out on that one?
Yeah, it's coming out, I think, November 14th. It's A+X issue. I believe it's...
I thought it was like 14 or something.
It's 14,
like that.
yeah. It was either 14 or 17, I couldn't remember. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was one of the coolest things to ever happen to me, and Marvel was just beyond cool. I worked with an editor named Jordan, who is just a great guy. I turned in a really weird script, and they immediately approved it without basically any edits.
Yeah.
So to be honest, it was the most easy, not to say that my experience with Boom isn't just as gratifying, but it was the most simple, easy. It took me a day to write, and Jordan loved it, and then we just went with it, and I got to work with one of my favorite artists, David LaFuente, on that. So it was just, I mean, you would imagine it'd be the other way around, but Boom actually is a lot more involved on the editorial level, and I think they need to be, and that's why I love Boom so much, because, but Marvel was kind of like it was just easy and fun, and I mean, I'm honored to be in any way associated with the company and the history of the characters.
It was kind of a dream project for you?
Yeah. I mean, doing anything for Marvel is like a dream come true, but then again, doing anything for Boom was also a dream come true, and anything that I do in comics is pretty much like a wet dream come true for me.
When you were younger, I know you said you wrote some comics with your friends and everything. Did you think you'd be here?
No.
Like writing with Marvel, writing with Boom?
No, to be honest, I always created things. I was always very creative, but I didn't have a singular vision for what I wanted to be or do until I was in high school, and then I wanted to be a film director and a screenwriter. But when I was creating comics, when I was like, 10 years old, there was no way I thought I would write Spider-Man, and there was no way I thought I would have my own, create our own series, or that people would like it. No, I don't think I would have predicted this at all.
And I know you went on tour about after the second issue came out of Polarity. Did you see a lot of your Say Anything fan base bringing the comics out?
Yes.
And just very excited about what you're doing?
Completely, yeah. And ever since we released Polarity, I do tons of signings and whatnot for Say Anything, and a lot of people bring their copies of Polarity, and I recently did New York Comic Con, and that was a total trip to meet people who are Say Anything fans and Polarity fans and both. So it's been amazing. Yeah.
I assume you're just kind of blown away that beyond just your music, you're still seeing this type of support for kind of your passion projects.
Completely. Yeah, and I mean, I want to keep doing that, and who knows what I'll be doing in 10 years, because I love, so many different types of art, but especially comics. I mean, they're definitely my passion in life, maybe even more than music, and it's been that way since I was a really young kid. So I mean, that's my focus. That's what I'd like to see myself doing when I'm old. And music. I don't want to give up music at all. I mean, it's a hard call between those two, but there's the image of me being a very successful writer and being 60 years old and writing comics still is a little more realistic than me being 60, 70 years old and prancing around on stage. Yeah. Doing my thing. So,
what was Comic-Con like for you?
It was incredible. I went one time to San Diego Comic-Con, but it was as a fan, and I found it very overwhelming. Not to say that the fan and professional experience is, so polarizing that you can't enjoy. I just have social anxiety, and I get overwhelmed very easily. So it was very helpful to have a place where I could go backstage, essentially, and retreat and smoke this stupid e-cigarette. And no, it was just amazing. The Boom booth was huge, and we had this huge poster of Polarity, and the signings were awesome, and I got to pick up comics from other publishers that I've been meaning to pick up, and it was just totally easy and positive. Yeah.
Were you able to meet any other like professionals in the like industry there that like came up to you as fans of your comic?
Yeah, Joe Keating is like I'm a big fan of his work, and we had been friends on Twitter. And Joe Eisma, who draws Morning Glories, we've been Twitter friends. It was mostly people who I've become Twitter friends with, but we've never gotten a chance to meet in person. Jerry Ordway is like one of my favorite artists growing up. Brought his kid to meet me because he was a Say Anything fan, and he drew me a little sketch, not a little, like this amazing art, a sketch cover, and it was awesome. I couldn't ask for more. I mean, honestly, like, I did less networking than one probably normally does at Comic-Con, because I just have the viewpoint that, like, I will meet people naturally through my work, and I don't want to be that guy who's like, you know, please pay attention to my comic. You know, it's like the people probably read it if it, you know, if it's out there long enough.
It's definitely gotten a following and everything, and got a notice.
Yeah,
so
thank
there's
God.
definitely people picking it up.
Yeah. Thankfully.
Now, is there anything else you might like to say to your fans out there?
Just thank you so much for everything, and one thing I will add is that, you know, I've sort of formed a long-term partnership with Boom, and we have a lot on the table, like a lot more than one might imagine, and that includes work coming out as early as beginning of next year, and so forth for several years, hopefully. So, if you're a fan of Polarity, then there's definitely a lot more to come.
Well, we definitely look forward to it, and thank you.
Of course. Can we hug?
Aww. Sorry for my interruption.
This was definitely,